The enigmatic unearthing. Deep within the vast frigid expanse of Siberia, a landscape renowned for its seemingly endless stretches of ice and snow, a discovery once emerged that would ripple across the scientific community and the wider world. This revelation began in a modest coal mine located in a secluded village called Rijavchik, far removed from bustling cities where local miners spent their days cutting away at ancient rock. On September 5, 1969, what began as a routine day of labor beneath layers of ancient coal ended in an event so extraordinary it would rewrite the entire village's history and cast doubt upon humanity's understanding of its own origins. The people who lived nearby had grown used to the low drone of machinery and the steady beat of pickaxes against stone. But on that day, the familiar rhythms gave way to an unsettling new discovery. It all started when one miner, exhausted but persistent, paused to wipe the sweat from his brow and noticed something in the coal seam that did not resemble the usual lumps of anthracite. Instead of the dark, unremarkable layers, he expected he glimpsed a smooth surface with edges that hinted at a deliberate shape or carving. Intrigued, he tapped it a few more times with his pickaxe, only to realize that he was chipping away not just at ancient rock, but at something else entirely, a hidden chamber, crafted from an unfamiliar yet seemingly polished material. In hushed excitement, the miners gathered around, brushing away the dirt and coal dust. Their headlamps revealed a sealed vault that had defied untold millennia, trapped beneath the Earth's crust, waiting to be rediscovered. As they peeled back more layers of centuries-old sediment, they revealed what appeared to be a large sarcophagus, hewn from marble. Its imposing size and immaculate carving suggested an intelligence behind its creation, an attention to detail well beyond typical funerary art. Nearly 3 meters long and about a meter high, this stone coffin was out of place in the mine and, by all accounts, out of place in recorded history itself. Soon word traveled quickly through the small community. Villagers hastily gathered at the mine entrance, some with a sense of excitement, others with trepidation. Many suspected it might hold the remains of some long-lost royalty, an ancient czar, or a legendary figure from Siberian lore. Yet the age of the coal deposit that housed it suggested a more extraordinary timeline, a geological context estimated at hundreds of millions of years old. Such a date far surpassed the known era of human existence, reaching into epochs older than dinosaurs. This was an impossibility if modern science held any sway. Within hours, local officials were notified and arrived in military jeeps, bringing a sense of urgency and secrecy. Yet the miners themselves, caught between curiosity and fear of losing their find to the authorities, chose to act without waiting. They pried off the marble lid, hearts pounding as they braced themselves for whatever lay inside. In the dim glow of their headlamps, they beheld something that would haunt their memories forever, a sight so shocking it rendered them speechless, challenging both scientific logic and mythic imagination. For there, resting in a transparent pink liquid, was the body of a young woman. Her features were delicate, her complexion impossibly pale, and her hair a deep brown, cascading gracefully around her. She seemed untouched by time, more like a maiden in slumber than a relic of the distant past. For a few breathless moments, the miners hovered in awed silence, nearly forgetting to breathe. The woman, though lifeless, appeared as though she could awaken at any moment, her porcelain skin so flawless that not a single blemish marred its surface. This defied logic, How could a mortal body remain in such a perfect state of preservation without any decay? Moreover, the strangeness of the situation only deepened when they noticed what lay beside her head, a small black metallic box with a smooth exterior free of any recognizable manufacturer's markings. No one present had the expertise to determine its purpose, but its shape and size appeared uncannily akin to modern handheld devices that did not exist at the time in 1969. Whispers spread quickly among the miners. Some insisted they had uncovered a figure from a bygone civilization, perhaps a lost princess, from an epoch so distant it felt unimaginable. Others speculated that this was no mere human, but an otherworldly being preserved through advanced technology. Fueled by astonishment and a deep-seated fear of the unknown, the miners dubbed her Princess Taisun, deriving the moniker from Tissel District, the administrative region encompassing their village. Even though none of them knew if she had been royalty or even truly human, the name felt both respectful and slightly intimidating. The sense of reverence was palpable, mixing with an undercurrent of disquiet. When higher authorities learned of the find, a wave of alarm and urgency swept through official channels. Almost immediately, a contingent of Soviet intelligence and military personnel descended upon Ryavchik, transforming the once quiet coal mine into a highly restricted zone. Soldiers patrolled the perimeter, and local villagers were ordered to keep their distance under the pretext of an unidentified biological threat. Rumors ran rampant. Some believed the authorities intended to remove the sarcophagus under the cover of darkness and whisk it away to an undisclosed laboratory. Others feared the entire village might be evacuated or silenced to suppress knowledge of this discovery. The tension was palpable, especially for the miners who had dared to open the marble lid on their own. Soon after the woman's discovery, the authorities faced an unexpected challenge. The sarcophagus, once drained of its pink preservation fluid, became lighter, but the woman's body began to deteriorate almost instantly. Initially pristine and lifelike, her skin took on a grayish hue, then shifted to a bluish pallor resembling a cadaver that had been exposed to the elements for far too long. Whatever lifelike quality she had radiated, it vanished with the last drops of that mysterious solution. With no modern technology capable of lifting the sealed marble coffin in its full fluid-filled state, scientists and soldiers had no choice but to transfer the liquid to specialized barrels for separate transport. This logistical necessity may have cost them the only true piece of evidence that demonstrated the woman's unnatural preservation. By the time the sarcophagus and its occupant reached a more advanced research facility in Novosibirsk, a significant segment of the local population had already crafted whispered legends around her. To some, she symbolized a link to a prehuman epoch, a challenge to the entire framework of accepted geology and evolutionary biology. To others, she was a specter of an advanced, lost civilization or a being from a distant realm beyond Earth. Still others worried she carried a curse, a superstition fueled by the subsequent tragedies that would soon befall several individuals connected to this astonishing event. The relocation of the sarcophagus to Novosibirsk signaled the beginning of a secretive and highly controlled scientific examination. A team composed of the Soviet Union's top researchers, drawn from fields like paleontology, geology, biology, and even emerging branches of nuclear science, was assembled to analyze the woman's body, the pink fluid, and the sarcophagus itself. Though the Soviet regime preferred to maintain tight secrecy, word of this discovery could not be fully contained. Scientists spoke in hushed circles about the anomalies they found, anomalies so profound they called into question the established chronology of life on Earth. Conventional radiocarbon dating techniques failed spectacularly. On the woman's remains, the marble coffin, and the strange pink liquid. The equipment returned values so high they were deemed untrustworthy, effectively surpassing the maximum thresholds for that kind of testing. Researchers then resorted to more advanced methods such as isotope analysis, using rarer radioactive elements, and geological stratum comparison within the coal mine site. Coal layers are typically formed over millions of years as organic material is compressed underground. Discovering a sealed marble structure in such a deposit suggested that the sarcophagus had been there since the coal's formation. When the final cross-referencing of data concluded, the results were almost too staggering to present. Multiple lines of evidence pointed to a time frame of around 800 million years, a date that shattered any standard timeline of Earth's biological development. Even the earliest multicellular life forms recognized by mainstream science did not appear until roughly 600 million years ago during the late Precambrian era, and dinosaurs wouldn't roam the Earth until a mere 230 million years ago. To think a human-like being, or any advanced humanoid for that matter, could exist so long ago defied the foundational principles of evolutionary biology. The scientists, stumped and wary of incurring the wrath of Soviet officialdom, kept their results under tight wraps, partly because they feared being labeled incompetent, and partly because the implications were frankly beyond comprehension. Yet the baffling details didn't end with the dating of the sarcophagus. The research team discovered that the pink fluid, even in small samples, had extraordinary preservative qualities. Attempts to cultivate bacteria or introduce microorganisms failed. The fluid swiftly eradicated microbial life, halting decomposition at a cellular level. A few rumored experiments even involved small animal tissues which showed a near-perfect state of preservation when submerged in the solution. These tests, if they indeed occurred, hinted at a technology or substance leagues ahead of any known medical or biological advancement at the time. Some began to whisper that this was a form of cryogenic stasis developed by a lost civilization, or even an extraterrestrial race. However, politics overshadowed pure scientific inquiry. The Soviet government, fixated on military and strategic advantage, imposed strict protocols for secrecy. Scientists were coerced into signing extensive non-disclosure agreements. Data samples and preliminary research findings were collected, recorded, and promptly locked away. Only a select circle of officials and high-ranking military personnel remained informed of the ongoing analyses. In the end, the woman's mummified remains, stripped of their vital pink fluid, and the black metallic box, believed to be some advanced artifact, were moved to yet another undisclosed laboratory. Despite the official hush, the story persisted in rumor fed by those who had seen too much to forget. As weeks turned into months following the initial discovery, the entire region around the old coal mine fell under an unsettling pall. People in Ryavchik began to speak of a curse that seemed to afflict those who had first uncovered the sarcophagus. The miner who initially struck the marble casing lost his life under mysterious conditions, though the official report filed by local authorities labeled it a traffic accident, claiming he drove his motorcycle into a truck while inebriated. His grieving family vehemently denied that he ever drank heavily or behaved recklessly, pointing instead to his recent bouts of insomnia and night terrors after the mine incident. Before the shock of his death could settle, another miner vanished without a trace, only for his body to be discovered days later near a river bank, contorted as if frozen in extreme cold despite mild weather conditions. These events fueled apprehensions among the villagers, who whispered that the woman in the sarcophagus was exacting some vengeance, or that meddling with such an ancient relic had disturbed a malevolent force. While many of these explanations stemmed from local superstitions and the stress of living in a place overshadowed by secrecy, the pattern of tragic fates was nonetheless alarming. By 1973, just a few years after the discovery, Soviet military forces imposed an even more stringent lockdown across Tissel district. Large swaths of forest near the old coal mine were cordoned off, surrounded by barbed wire fencing and patrolled by armed guards. Warning signs were erected proclaiming the region a restricted zone. No one outside of official clearance could enter. The average villager in Ryavchik or surrounding communities had little knowledge of the government's true objectives, though a handful of geologists who had once studied the site suspected that further excavations were revealing more than just a single sarcophagus. In time, a scattered handful of testimonies would confirm those suspicions. At least 2 more marble sarcophagi, described as identical to the first, were reportedly discovered in a lakeside area several kilometers away from the original mine shaft. Both contained bodies of similarly pristine appearance immersed in the same pinkish fluid. These revelations gleaned from fleeting snippets of conversation, and the rare slip of a scientist's tongue painted a picture of an ancient enigma that extended beyond a singular Princess Tiasoon. It suggested a recurring phenomenon indicating either multiple individuals from a single extinct society, or perhaps different beings linked by some deeper cosmic thread. As the clampdown grew tighter, the Soviet Union chose to systematically remove all physical evidence and official documents from public view. Laboratory results, research notes, and even large containers of the pink fluid vanished into concealed archives. Scientists who had once labored over the samples found themselves reassigned to remote outposts, or in some cases, they left their posts entirely under circumstances no one could fully explain. Meanwhile, the village of Ryavchik slowly became emblematic of a mystery that would slip through the fingers of official history, buried under layers of national secrecy and the relentless march of time. Yet the story of the woman in the marble sarcophagus would remain alive in the collective consciousness of locals, whispered quietly by firesides, and retold with each new generation who dared to speculate about what truly lay buried beneath the Siberian earth, unraveling secrets and theories. Even as the official crackdown escalated certain details about the woman's appearance and the technology surrounding her, seeped into underground circles of researchers, historians, and those attuned to paranormal phenomena. Speculations abounded, forming a tapestry of theories that tried to account for the sheer improbability of an 800-million-year-old sarcophagus. One faction was convinced that this princess belonged to a prehistoric civilization so far advanced it rivaled modern technology, or perhaps even surpassed it. According to this line of thought, humans are not the first technological species to evolve on Earth. Instead, countless eons ago, an earlier epoch of humanity, or near humanity, arose achieved monumental feats and then vanished without leaving behind an obvious trace. Such a civilization, it was argued, could have harnessed preservation sciences beyond our understanding. The pink fluid, acting like a form of suspended animation, might have been a testament to medical knowledge so sophisticated that cells and tissues were kept in a near-perfect state for hundreds of millions of years. If so, this ancient society's collapse triggered by cataclysms or cosmic events allowed billions of years of geological processes to bury its remains. The body in the marble sarcophagus was a lone survivor, or perhaps one of only a few, indicating that these people, if they were indeed human, sought to outlast the demise of their era by retreating into an engineered stasis. Another set of theorists gravitated toward the ancient astronaut hypothesis, already a point of fascination in certain global circles at the time. They posited that the woman might not be from Earth at all, pointing to her unearthly pallor and near-flawless condition as signs of an extraterrestrial origin. Her presence in Siberia, so deeply buried in coal layers, might indicate a crashed alien craft or deliberate interment. The metallic box found beside her body further fueled these ideas. If it were some advanced communication or data storage device, it could hold recordings of her civilization or of her journey across the galaxy. For those who embraced this line of reasoning, the sarcophagus was essentially a cryogenic chamber reflecting extraterrestrial technology designed for long-haul space travel or extended hibernation. Meanwhile, a minority of commentators cast their nets wider, delving into metaphysical or religious interpretations. They noted that the notion of a perfectly preserved body resonates with tales of incorruptible saints or ascended masters found in religious traditions worldwide. In certain faiths, individuals of extraordinary spiritual attainment remain miraculously intact after death, a phenomenon believers interpret as divine endorsement of their purity or sanctity. Could the princess have been a transcendent being of some sort, revered in an antediluvian era? To these voices, the scientific puzzle was inseparable from theological or esoteric truth. Perhaps we stand on the verge of proving that forms of immortality have always been part of Earth's deeper spiritual heritage. However, it was not just idle speculation fueling these discussions. Fragmentary leaks emerged from the restricted research circles. Some scientists privately admitted that the tests on the pink liquid hinted at a solution meticulously engineered to preserve biological tissues indefinitely. Others whispered that the black metallic box emitted electromagnetic signals when exposed to certain frequencies, a detail never confirmed but widely gossiped about. Overall, the mosaic of rumor, partial evidence, and theoretical leaps created a labyrinth of speculation, each path leading to a grander question about humanity's place in the universe and the murky edges of history. While these theories circulated among fringe researchers and local villagers alike, Soviet authorities took painstaking measures to contain the narrative. Military checkpoints sprang up around the Tissel district forest, and anonymous agents paid discreet visits to families and individuals who had come into direct contact with the sarcophagus. Confronted with these tactics, many people felt pressured into silence. Yet despite the tightening grip of secrecy, the story persisted in samizdat, literature passed from hand to hand in typed or handwritten form. Independent thinkers, curious students, and the occasional daring academic preserved fragments of the story, determined that someday the truth might come to light. Oddly enough, the heightened government attention only served to deepen the sense of mystery. Why expend such resources if there wasn't something truly monumental at stake? To many, the overreach of the Soviet apparatus hinted that the state might be on the brink of a discovery with far-reaching consequences, potentially overshadowing anything else in its scientific or strategic arsenal. If there existed technology capable of indefinite preservation, the military applications would be enormous. Think of soldiers placed in stasis, revived for future campaigns, or pioneering spacefarers traversing cosmic distances without aging. Additionally, if the pink liquid's properties could be reverse-engineered, it might spawn a revolution in medicine, curing diseases, preserving organs, even challenging the inevitability of death. At the same time, the deeper fear among top officials was that such a discovery could undermine the reigning ideological narratives. The Soviet Union, like any modern power, based its legitimacy on progress within certain scientific paradigms. Finding evidence of an 800-million-year-old advanced being would inevitably conflict with Marxist-Leninist perspectives on historical materialism, let alone mainstream evolutionary science. The philosophical and societal repercussions would be enormous. Would such proof of ancient or extraterrestrial intelligence unsettle the masses? Could it provoke religious revivals or apocalyptic cults, as had occurred with other sensational global events? These concerns only amplified the drive to keep the story hidden. Another group impacted by the secrecy was the scientific community itself. Many brilliant researchers who dreamed of analyzing the pink fluid or unraveling the genomic secrets of an impossibly ancient human-like being saw their hopes dashed by bureaucratic barriers. A few with the highest security clearances were granted limited access, but under conditions that demanded absolute confidentiality. Any attempt to disseminate their findings risked immediate professional and personal ruin. Such an environment rife with intimidation bred paranoia. Conversations took place behind closed doors. Research notes were locked in vaults, and the occasional slip of the tongue could lead to abrupt reassignment or worse. Over time, many of the original investigators disappeared from public life, fueling even darker rumors about forced labor camps, coerced experiments, or permanent exile. Yet the story did not die. In scattered corners of the Soviet Union as well as abroad, the legend of the Tissel Princess lived on in hushed gatherings. Whispered tales recounted how the woman's luminous pallor initially gave the impression of a living, breathing figure. Some speak of an eerie presence around the site, an inexplicable energy that left visitors with goosebumps or vivid dreams. Others relayed accounts that multiple similar princesses existed, forming an ancient pantheon of silent watchers beneath the Siberian permafrost. And so, the tapestry of myth grew, weaving fact, conjecture, and fear into an enduring enigma that would continue to captivate believers and skeptics alike. One of the lesser discussed aspects of the case was the significance of the black metallic box found near the woman's head. Accounts vary as official statements are non-existent, but unofficial sources suggest that when scientists attempted to open or probe the object they encountered several challenges. The material reportedly resisted cutting tools of the period. Diamond-tipped drills, typically used for high-grade metals, barely made a dent. Furthermore, any attempt to pry it open risked damaging potential contents. Under the weight of these obstacles, researchers resorted to non-destructive methods like X-ray imaging, though these technologies were far more primitive in the late 1960s and early 1970s compared to modern standards. Hints emerged that the scans showed intricate internal components, but specifics remained elusive. Some claimed that this box gave off a faint magnetic field, or that it occasionally produced anomalous readings on Geiger counters, though no consistent pattern was ever established. Within certain factions of the research team, the device quickly earned the nickname the Key, implying that whatever lay inside it might unlock the secrets of the princess's origin. A few scientists speculated that it could be a repository of knowledge like an advanced data storage device or cosmic map that would decode her voyage to Earth. Others posited it was a medical or life support mechanism linked to the pink fluid, a vital part of her preservation process. Adding to the intrigue, rumors of the box sometimes merged with local Siberian folklore. While no direct cultural legend mentions a box from the stars, certain ancient tales do speak of otherworldly visitors who bore strange objects, bestowing or withholding knowledge at critical junctures in human history. Though largely dismissed by academic historians, such folklore gained newfound attention in light of the puzzling find. Could it be that ancient tribes encountered remnants of an advanced presence long ago, and the memory persisted in allegorical form? Or did the black box and by extension the princess simply stir older archetypal fears and hopes woven into the human psyche? Whatever the case, the object's existence deepened the puzzle of the princess's identity. It hinted that she was not merely a preserved body, but part of a larger technological and possibly spiritual framework. If her dress, described as translucent white fabric that defied decay, was an artifact of advanced textile engineering, then the black metallic box signified a broader mastery of science. Coupled with the embalming fluid that kept her in near pristine condition, it suggested that her people, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial, possessed knowledge well beyond the mid-20th century Soviet sphere, or even the 21st century we know today. In the aftermath, as the official clampdown grew fiercer, discussions about the black box receded into the same realm of rumor and guarded conversation as the rest of the phenomenon. Those with credible knowledge found themselves muzzled. The device, along with a woman's body, vanished into the labyrinthine corridors of undisclosed facilities. Only decades later would scattered and anecdotal references in personal memoirs, half-leaked documents, and clandestine interviews rekindle interest in the question of what exactly had been discovered in that hidden Siberian chamber. Decades after these events transpired, the Tissel Princess became something of an urban legend, albeit one that straddled the boundary between the fantastical and the plausibly real. In time, political changes swept through the Soviet Union. It dissolved, leaving behind a cluster of independent states. Many archives were reorganized, some partially declassified, stirring hopes that conclusive records about the sarcophagus might finally emerge. Journalists and researchers sifted through miles of documents, but found only oblique references, cryptic project codes, mentions of marble anomalies, or scattered lab results that referred to unknown biological substances. Every such lead ended either in a bureaucratic dead end or with files that had been censored pages visibly removed. Still, the story refused to fade away. Gradually, it transcended its Cold War origins, making its way onto the global stage. Writers of speculative fiction wove the Tissel Princess into the tapestry of lost civilizations like Atlantis or Lemuria. Independent film producers used it as a premise for documentaries or docudramas, conflating confirmed facts with sensationalist embellishments. Conspiracy theorists link the discovery to everything from UFO cover-ups to biblical narratives of giants and antediluvian worlds. Philosophers who specialize in human origins argued that if even a fraction of the story were true, it could overturn entire fields of inquiry: paleontology, archaeology, anthropology, and comparative theology. Within certain religious circles, the concept of an uncorrupted body found in a pristine state gave rise to theological speculation. Some parallels were drawn to the revered tradition of saints, whose bodies are said to remain incorruptible, often interpreted as a sign of divine grace. Was this woman an ancient prophet, a holy relic from a time before known prophets walked the earth? Could she have been a messenger from heaven, or a being from a different plane of existence altogether? Such musings underscored the difficulty of separating fact from faith, especially when confronted with phenomena that defy standard scientific explanation. Over the years, individuals who had briefly been involved in the 1969 excavation, or who later studied the site under official sanction, granted interviews under conditions of anonymity. They recounted how the villagers were left disillusioned and frightened, their trust in authority shaken. A few recalled that large segments of the forest surrounding the mine turned into a fenced-off military zone that locals soon learned to avoid. Hunters claimed to see lights hovering in the woods at night, attributing them to clandestine experiments or unexplained energies. Mystics spoke of a vortex of spiritual power in the region, perhaps awakened by the unearthing of something that was never meant to see daylight. In the face of this swirl of narrative and conjecture, a small memorial stone now stands near the old mine, an unassuming rock slab bearing a simple inscription that testifies to the discovery in 1969 of a young woman within a marble sarcophagus dated to prehistoric times. For most who pass by, it is just another piece of local lore, but for those who remember it is a tangible reminder that our current understanding of the world can be upended by a single extraordinary find, and thus the Tissel Princess remains in the cultural consciousness as a beacon of mystery. A question mark as large as the Siberian wilderness in which she was found. Continuing mystery and reflection. In examining the enduring fascination with the Tissel Princess, it is helpful to consider the broader human propensity for myth-making, particularly when faced with phenomena that challenge our foundational worldviews. The sarcophagus discovery in 1969 occurred during a time of immense scientific optimism when space exploration and technological progress offered the promise of uncovering life's greatest secrets. Yet ironically, this event suggested that some mysteries may lie not in outer space, but right beneath our feet, hidden within geological strata that predate established science by hundreds of millions of years. Confronted with such a scenario, it's understandable that both official agencies and the public would struggle to incorporate it into existing narratives. Philosophically, the notion of an 800-million-year-old body disrupts linear conceptions of progress, time, and human uniqueness. Western thought, influenced by Judeo-Christian and Enlightenment traditions, often treats history as a relatively straightforward progression from primitive to advanced. The possibility of a hyper-advanced civilization or extraterrestrial presence so far in the Earth's past challenges that assumption, implying that humanity might be just one iteration in a longer sequence of intelligent life forms. Religious communities, too, might wrestle with these implications. If an advanced being existed eons before the biblical timelines or other sacred chronologies, what does that say about creation narratives and the special status often attributed to humankind? Moreover, from an existential standpoint, the Thistle Princess prompts us to question how civilizations emerge, flourish, and disappear without leaving a conventional trace. If her people had once roamed Earth with advanced technological capabilities, how could they vanish so thoroughly that even their memory would fade from geological and historical records? Cataclysmic events, asteroid impacts, volcanic supereruptions, or extreme climatic shifts could wipe out entire civilizations, leaving only cryptic remnants sealed in pockets of the Earth's crust. For some thinkers, this raises a sobering idea that advanced societies, whether of human or extraterrestrial origin, are not immune to the forces of nature and time. Perhaps collapse is an inherent risk in the arc of civilization, no matter how technologically adept. In the specific case of Soviet Russia, the historical context cannot be overlooked. A state already suspicious of anything that might undercut its ideological stance had every incentive to suppress or reinterpret data that didn't fit neatly into Marxist-Leninist frameworks. The immediate classification of the sarcophagus, the pink fluid and the black metallic box under top-secret designations exemplifies how scientific pursuits can be subjugated to political imperatives. This sort of environment can stifle genuine inquiry, as revealing the truth might invite accusations of subversion or sabotage. And yet, in trying to bury the story, the authorities only lent it an even more magnetic aura, fueling decades of speculation and clandestine research. Still, the fact that the Thistle Princess remains unresolved continues to captivate. For those seeking definitive proof, an unassailable document, or incontrovertible physical evidence, it remains an elusive quest. High-level secrecy combined with lost or destroyed records has rendered the puzzle nearly impervious to closure. And in this space where official silence meets human curiosity, the legend finds fertile ground to evolve, subject to reinterpretation with each passing generation. If we entertain the proposition that the princess once walked among an advanced civilization, we inevitably delve into broader inquiries about technology, morality, and fate. Did her society reach extraordinary heights, only to be eradicated by internal strife? Environmental collapse or cosmic misfortune? Might she have been a figure of high status or religious importance? Granted the privilege of a technologically sophisticated burial rite, did others from her realm also place themselves in similar sarcophagi, hoping to be resurrected in a far future they could scarcely imagine? Or was she a tragic voyager from another planet, marooned on Earth, through a malfunction or an accident, her final resting place sealed in subterranean quiet, until a fortunate strike of a pickaxe revealed her? Contemplating these possibilities extends beyond idle fancy. It challenges us to reflect on our present path. Humans today grapple with environmental crises and global threats, not unlike the cataclysms that might have ended previous eras of life on Earth. Is our modern civilization fundamentally different? Or do we risk a fate akin to that hypothesized for the princess's world, buried under sediment and ice until rediscovered by some future intelligence? In a sense, her story can function as a parable, reminding us of the fragility and impermanence of all human endeavors, no matter how secure they may appear at any given moment. In parallel, those who advocate the extraterrestrial origin theory engage in a different line of reflection. They posit that Earth has long been part of a cosmic tapestry of interacting species and visitors, with the Tissel Princess serving as a rare piece of tangible proof. While mainstream astronomy acknowledges the vastness of the universe and the statistical likelihood of life elsewhere, the leap to ancient interplanetary travelers encased in Siberian rock remains extraordinary. Yet it is precisely the presence of that black metallic box, so reminiscent of advanced design, that pushes some to accept what was once deemed impossible. If a single artifact can open the door to cosmic perspective, it begs us to question what other secrets might lie dormant, awaiting discovery beneath desert sands, ocean floors, or remote polar tundras. Moreover, the religious dimension lingers as well. In multiple sacred texts, there are references to beings who arrived from the heavens or inhabited Earth in epochs that precede mainstream historical dating. While these accounts are typically viewed through mythological lenses, the Tissel Princess incident might lend them a new resonance. What if certain myths contain grains of historical truth? Could the time-worn stories of angels, giants, or divine beings be partially rooted in contact with advanced humans or extraterrestrials who lived among earlier civilizations? Delving into such questions underscores the deeply intertwined relationship between science, myth, and faith, an interplay that becomes particularly vivid when confronted with evidence that defies easy categorization. In this landscape of endless conjecture, the reclusive figure in her marble sarcophagus stands as a silent witness to eons gone by. Whether a relic of a lost human lineage or a traveler from distant stars, she compels us to keep probing the boundaries of knowledge, daring us to upend the safe narratives we've constructed about our origins and ultimate destiny. For many who research the Tissel Princess story today, the biggest frustration lies in the scarcity of verifiable documentation and tangible artifacts. The pink fluid that once preserved her body so effectively is said to have been stored in barrels carefully guarded by the Soviet military. If any remains exist in modern times, they are sequestered beyond public reach. Similarly, the black metallic box vanished into the cloak of classified military research, presumably studied by teams that left no public record of their findings. Repeated attempts by journalists to glean new information from the Russian government or from scientific institutions that survived the Soviet era often lead nowhere, blocked by vanished files or official denials that the event ever occurred. And yet, personal testimonies keep trickling in. Over the years, people claiming to have been part of the Novosk laboratory staff or connected with the Tissel excavation team have shared cryptic details. One geologist recalled seeing thin slices of the sarcophagus's marble under a microscope, marveling at its unusually consistent crystalline structure, which hinted at precision engineering rather than natural quarrying. A former security officer described a hush of fear that pervaded the entire operation, explaining that anyone asking too many questions about the project was swiftly reassigned or threatened. One medical professional who insisted on anonymity spoke of a single test performed on the princess's hair, reportedly revealing protein structures identical to modern Homo sapiens, but with anomalies that the laboratory at the time couldn't decipher. Such tidbits, while not definitive, paint a consistent picture of a discovery that challenged every standard protocol from laboratory methodology to ideological compliance. Each new piece of alleged insider testimony only deepens the enigma, overlapping and reinforcing pre-existing law. Naturally, critics of the story remain skeptical. They argue that any real discovery would have inevitably left behind incontrovertible evidence such as peer-reviewed scientific papers, or at least one surviving specimen. They also highlight the possibility of a grand hoax, perhaps a Soviet-era propaganda stunt aimed at sowing confusion or testing public gullibility. However, proponents counter that, given the era's strict government control, it is entirely plausible for a handful of officials to bury the evidence and silence the witnesses. At the same time, the question remains, if it were all a hoax, why maintain such a tight perimeter around the mine for years? Why classify benign geological data? Why forcibly reassign or intimidate key personnel? The extent and duration of the government's response suggests that something genuinely extraordinary did occur. Moreover, the repeated mention of subsequent sarcophagus discoveries fuels the notion that the woman known as Princess Tayasun was not alone, further complicating the narrative. In the end, this ongoing tension between secrecy and speculation fosters a unique cultural phenomenon. Researchers who might otherwise dismiss sensational claims find themselves intrigued by the persistent threads of testimony and circumstantial evidence. Meanwhile, sensationalism thrives as each retelling adds new layers of rumor, turning the Thistle Princess into a legend that defies tidy resolution. Paradoxically, the unsolved nature of the puzzle, its open-endedness, might be what keeps it alive in the collective imagination, urging us to keep digging for that elusive key that could unlock the buried secrets of Earth's distant past. Standing on the threshold of this mystery, one is left with a sense of wonder and humility. The Thistle Princess story in all its iterations, be it ancient, advanced, human, extraterrestrial voyager, or a relic of unknown cosmic significance, reminds us that human knowledge, no matter how vast, may still be just scratching the surface of reality. History is not solely the domain of textbooks and academic debates. It is a living tapestry, constantly re-examined and reframed by new evidence or reinterpretations of old data. In some ways, the very act of searching for truth in this tale becomes a mirror for our own curiosity. Our drive to question and our capacity to imagine possibilities that lie beyond the current confines of scientific and historical consensus. In Siberia, where temperatures can plummet below -60 degrees Celsius, the land itself appears timeless. Permafrost-shifting glaciers and seams of fossil-rich coal have been shaped over eons, their layers holding secrets of eras lost to conventional memory. That a solitary coffin carved from marble and harboring an impossibly preserved occupant could remain undetected until modern times is both a testament to nature's capacity for concealment and a stark reminder of how much of Earth's deeper layers remain unexplored. Indeed, the planet may harbor countless dormant chapters of life's saga, waiting for a random strike of a pickaxe or drill to reveal them. A final point to consider is the psychological and existential impact of such discoveries. People often yearn for proof that the human story extends beyond the boundaries set by established timelines. The Thistle Princess resonates because she suggests that our shared heritage might be richer, stranger, and more grandly cosmic than we currently recognize. In a world bombarded by immediate concerns, political upheaval, economic trials, ecological perils, it can be both invigorating and disorienting to confront a narrative that hints at an age-old enigma dwarfing our contemporary woes. If we are but one chapter in a vast, possibly repeating cycle of intelligent life, then the value we place on our achievements and the priorities of our civilization might shift dramatically. For the villagers of Rzhavchik, the Soviet soldiers, the group of miners, and the scientists who briefly peered into this profound abyss of prehistory life would never be quite the same. Even in the absence of official validation, their experiences cast a shadow, or perhaps a light, across the mundane. In the years following the incident, the region's folklore became a mosaic of half-recollected truths and communal coping mechanisms for a reality that felt too monumental to grasp. The small granite memorial stone now standing where the mine once operated reads simply enough, but behind those etched words lies an expansive question mark that beckons us to ask. What else lies beneath the icy crust of time, waiting for our spades and our minds to unearth it? If you have followed this story up to this point, you may find yourself left with more questions than answers, a fitting conclusion for a puzzle that transcends ordinary understanding. Whether you view the Tissel Princess as an enigma of science, a symbol of spiritual wonder, or a clue to extraterrestrial contact, her silent figure continues to provoke reflection, debate, and awe. In the end, that might be her lasting legacy. A call to remain open-minded about the hidden chapters of Earth's history, and a reminder that every so often the unexpected can erupt from the depths to challenge all that we believe we know.